is sure to be another very special Harcourts Rata and Co auction, number 6 Glory Street in South Morang. My name is Robert Ozzimo and I proudly represent the company of Harcourts Rata and Co. I'm joined here today by some of my award-winning team in blue, the best in the north. Should you require their advice, please feel free to approach either Michael, Daniel, Paul, Mary, and of course, George and Christina Ioannou, who no doubt you've had the great pleasure of meeting throughout the marketing campaign. Buyers, let me share with you now the following announcements, which in place help you bid and buy with absolute confidence here today. The auction will be conducted in accordance with the rules, and any additional conditions are made available for inspection before the start of the auction. The auction rules prohibit an auctioneer from accepting bids or offers for property after the property has been knocked down to the successful bidder. The vendors have a reserve price, as the auctioneer will indicate bidders on request. The law prohibits false bids, prohibits major disruptions by bidders, and prohibits bidders attempting to prevent others from bidding, and provides for fines for such conduct. The rules permit for vendor bids. The words I'll use during the auction to indicate that I'm making a bid on behalf of the vendor are vendor bid, and by law only I, as the auctioneer, can make a vendor bid. The contract of sale has been on display prior to today's auction. We call for a 10% deposit upon the fall of the hammer and the signing of that contract to take place here today, with the balance to be paid at settlement in 30 to 90 days time, at which time the vendor will provide the lucky buyer with vacant possession of the property. All in all, it's quite a straightforward document. Everything's in there, everything's quite clear. Buyers, it is my highest recommendation what we offer for your consideration and competition here today. We need only look up and down Glory Street here today to see what a house-proud area we are buying in, and that is for very good reason, because these owners have access to absolutely everything they need for a great lifestyle. Parkland as close as a short stroll down to the end of the street. Easy access to transport in the guise of multiple bus routes, and of course South Morang Station within easy reach. There you'll also find Westfield, Plenty Valley. Plenty of schooling options, both primary and secondary. It really is one of those areas where there's a sense of community, and what a great opportunity for you to become part of that community today, whether you be a first home buyer, an investor, or looking for the next place for you and your family to lay down roots. The property itself immaculately looked after, absolutely nothing to do. You can buy with absolute confidence here today, knowing that you're buying a home that has been truly loved over the years. So if you'd like to start that journey today and get the sold sticker up on the board, now buyers, is your opportunity to reserve that right. Where can I see a fair and reasonable starting bid? At 680,000, the fair starting out 680 the bid. We're up and running. Welcome and best of luck here today. At 680,000, fairly been offered now here on my left at 680. At 680,000, perhaps you're me off to 7. At 680 the bid. At 680,000, fairly been offered at 680. There's the bid. There's the competition. The opportunity is with every other buyer here today. At $680,000 I have now. At 680,000 once. At 680 are we all done? At 680,000 twice. At $680,000 the bid. Are we done? Finished? For the, what was that, sorry? At 6, I had 90 somewhere. At 90? At 690, I'll take the higher bid if you don't mind. At 690,000, looking for 7 in the rise. At 690,000, the bid's there. 700,000 and welcome now. At 720 now, and a great bid at 720,000. 3 in it now. At 720 the bid. At 720,000, bids back up here against you, sir, and over here. At 720,000. At 720,000, fairly been offered now. At 720 the bid. At 720,000, bid here. Once. At 720,000, done. At 720,000. At 25, I shorten my stride and get you involved at 25. Perhaps a big bid in response. At 725 and the bid's there. At 7 1/4. At 35 now. At 735 the bid. At 735,000. At 735,000, bids back here at 35. Opportunity back with you. At 735,000 against your bid at 35. At 735,000, fairly been offered, sir, ma'am. Are we done? I'm asking for 5 in the rise at 735, make it 40 at 735,000. At 735,000 bid here, we done over here? At 40 now, and welcome back at 40. At 740,000, bid back behind, opportunity in front. At 45 now, at 745, got them down to $5,000 bids. At 745, they were bidding big earlier. At 745,000, fairly been offered. At 745 the bid. At 745,000, bid here, opportunity with you. Make it 50 now. At 745 the bid. Once. At 745, all done. At 745,000, second call at 745 the bid, all done, all finished. At 740.
750.
50 here first, sorry, at 750,000. You got to be a bit quicker at 750. At 750,000, 60 now, and welcome back at 60. At 760,000, I'd like to welcome you to the bidding, sir, but you got to be quick. At 760, can I say 65 now? At 760 in the bids here. At 65, and welcome. Best of luck here today. 65. At 765,000. At 765,000, George, do we sell here today? We are on the market and selling at 70 now. Keys are here at 770,000. We're on the market. We sell. Make absolutely no mistake about it. If you're waiting for a halftime break, if you're waiting for me to go inside and get instructions, won't be happening here today. There's no break. My instructions have been sought. They have been given. They are to sell at 770. The bid's here. The keys are here. We're selling at 770,000. If you've come to buy, bid me now or forever hold your peace, because we sell away at 770 the bid. First call at 72. At 72, at 772,000, welcome back at 72. At 75 now, straight back at you at 75. At 775,000. At 775, the bid we play for keeps here today. At 775,000, we're on the market, we're selling. There's no second chances. Once a hammer 4 sold is sold, gone is gone at 75. At 775,000, 7 3/4 now. At 775. At 776, I thought you were going to say 777, sir. At 776 now. At 776,000, welcome back at 76. At 800,000?
No. 77.
Bit cheeky of me. I thought I'd give it a go. At 778,000. At 778 now. At 778,000, the bid's back here for 1. At 778,000, fairly been offered now. Bid there. Opportunity with you. But we are in the market and we do sell, so we do need to know. At 778,000, fairly been offered. Keys here. Once at 778 done. Twice.
779.
At 779 now, 779 and 80, the quick retort at 80. At 780,000 now, 780, an easy bid at 1. At 780 the bid. At 780,000, fairly been offered now. 780 bid here, opportunity with you, but the keys are here as it stands. At 780,000, are we done here? Definitely done? Thank you very much for bidding here today. 780,000, we're done over here. Thank you very much for your bidding here today. So didn't quite get involved there, but we're definitely done. Thank you for your interest here today. At $780,000 the bid. Bid here, keys here. Opportunity with you now. At 780,000, everyone else tells me they're out. Only one to beat. At 780 the bid. Once at 780,000, done. 80 and a half at 780,581. That's an easy bid to counter, sir. At 781 now. Small bids help the competition come along. Big bids buy property. 781 the bids here. The keys are here. We sell. Don't walk away for that half. At $781,000 now the bid. At 781. At 781,000. Try a big bid, sir. Give me 85 in the rise. At 781, be bold at 781. At 781,000, fairly been offered now. 781 the bid. Once at 781,000, done. At 781 and a half now, 781 and 82. At 782 the bid. At 782,000, the quick retort again at half at 782 I have. At 782,000, bid here, keys here, on the market and selling at $782,000 the bid. For the first call at 782, all done. Second call at 782,000, done. Finished. For the third and final call at 783,000. How about 85 in the rise? At 85 now, at 785. At 785,000, fairly been offered now at 785, and we're back here. Bids here, my left, your right. Opportunity with you though, but the keys are here as it stands. At 785,000. At 785 the bid. At 785,000, everyone else tells me they're out. If you tell me you're out, sir, I'll sell over there. At 785 the bid. Now once at 785, all done. Twice at 785,000, done and finished. Third, final call, 785 the bid. Are we all done? All finished, all silent out. Definitely out over here. We're out there. Absolutely sure. Thank you once more. 785, down to you, sir, ma'am. Do I have your absolute best here today? There's a little bit left in the tank. Now's the time to spend it. Dig a little bit deep if you want to buy here today. Got to dig deep. At 785, the bid's there, the keys are there. at 785 and a half, at 785,500 now, at 87 now, at 787, at 780, you can't buy like that, man, only like this, at 787, the bid's there, the keys are there, we've exhausted all options now, definitely done. Thank you so much for your spirited bidding here today, at $787,000 the bid, bids here, keys here, we sell, once at 787, all done, twice at 787,000, are we done? Are we finished? Third, final call at $787,000 a bid. All done, all finished, silent and out. We're definitely done. Thank you once more. We are selling, 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 sold. Congratulations and well bid. Please join me congratulating our purchasers and our vendors here today. You've just witnessed another successful Harcourts, Rata and Co auction. Have a great weekend. See you again soon. Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations. Congratulations.